So we got a bit more news to get to, and it starts with Rocky Romero. I believe he was on oral sessions with Renee Paquette, and he said, and I quote, that he cannot pretty much he cannot go into too much detail, but he knows that there are a plethora of surprises planned for Wrestle Kingdom 17 on January the 4th. And it is very likely that one of the surprises is former WWE Women's Champion Mercedes Renato, aka Sasha Banks. But I highly doubt that the only surprise for Wrestle Kingdom 17 will be Sasha Banks, as I do believe New Japan will do everything in their power to blow fans out of the water like they normally do on January the 4th for New Japan's biggest calendar event of the year, that being Wrestle Kingdom. I do believe, if I remember correctly, the Night 2 event for Wrestle Kingdom may have a bit of an inclusion of Pro Wrestling Noah like it was last year, but we will get more information on the January 21st edition of Wrestle Kingdom, as well as New Year's Smash, as the events get closer. But I think that having the expectations that Wrestle Kingdom 17 will blow people away is not a falsehood or something that would be overestimating expectations, because New Japan has a way with delivering more than disappointing. It has also been reported that Triple H said that Bronson Reed was a needed rehire or a borderline desperation rehire since since his departure, and that just shows how valuable Triple H sees Bronson Reed as, and how Bronson Reed has a bright future in the WWE. I think that under Triple H, a lot of people that were floundering in the Vince McMahon era would be in a different position now than they were under Vince McMahon. And that's unfortunate that they moved on, but at the same time, it is good that they are in a prominent position in AEW, that being Keith Lee, Swerve Strickland, and others that made the move over to AEW from WWE. Not to say that they're not able to come back, it is just the idea that had they held on, well, I mean, some of them were gone a year, but under different circumstances, it makes you wonder, I guess is what I'm saying. Also, speaking of one of the people that got released in the Vince McMahon era that may have been in a different position had Triple H been in power, former NXT Tag Team Champion Danny Burch is returning to wrestling, as he's been on, I guess, a bit of a hiatus through 2022 after being released last year by WWE. And it is clear that Danny Burch will be returning to the ring under his former name of Martin Stone in 2023, as I believe in Georgia, I want to say. Um, Against August Arturo, maybe. But it is good to see somebody like Martin Stone back in the wrestling ring, because, well, during the black and gold era, and I'm not gonna disregard the I'm not going to disregard the repackaging of NXT or downgrade the repackaging of NXT. All I'm going to say is that in the previous regime that NXT was a part of, because props to those in charge of NXT now, NXT 2.0 had some growing pains, but it is in a stable position right now, in my opinion. The fact of the matter is that in the previous era, Danny Burch and Oney Lorcan were one of, if not the top tag team in NXT for a time. And losing them did negatively impact the depth that was within the ranks of NXT, and something that, in my opinion, Vince McMahon never really cared about, because, well, Vince McMahon does have depth on his mind, but typically just main roster depth. And I also don't even think, to a degree, that Vince cares as much about depth as he did, or cared, I should say, as much about depth as he did, because there was a time when Vince did care about depth and it showed on the roster, but in recent years it is pretty obvious that he didn't care about depth. Speaking of shifting over to AEW, though, we have news from a recent edition of the Snake Pit, aka Jake Roberts' podcast, where Jake Roberts went on record saying that he would love to have fought FTR and Chris Jericho in his prime had he been given the opportunity to. But the interesting part was that Jake Roberts said that he would love to manage Miro, and he think he could do well with Miro as his client, I guess, similarly to how he's done with the Murder Hawk Monster since Jake debuted in AEW as the manager of Lance Archer. And I think that would lead to an interesting pairing in AEW, with Miro being the client, or under the guidance of Jake Roberts. I think that would be an interesting thing. And not just because it would get Miro on television, it would also be an interesting way to shake things up and give Jake Roberts somebody new to manage, and not just stick him with the Murder Hawk Monster, because there was a time where it didn't even seem like he would be with Lance Archer anymore. But I think putting him with somebody else would be pretty interesting, especially somebody like Miro. And I do completely agree that if Jake Roberts had the opportunity to fight Chris Jericho during his prime, or FTR during his prime, those matches would have torn the freaking house down to the nth degree. It would have torn the house down, and it would have been something that people were talking about nowadays as classic matches from the past. And speaking of AEW, Maki Ito, who is, I believe, one of the people that were featured in the AEW Women's Division early on, that maybe fell victim to the pandemic problems. By that I mean the lack of traveling, or the lack of ability to travel, has said in an interview that she will not go to WWE. Even if WWE gave her an offer, she would refuse to go to WWE because of her loyalty lying with AEW, which that is very much a Japanese logic in Japan, that you remain loyal to your home promotion. So I also think that, to a degree, she may see more opportunity for herself because of Riho, or she may just see more opportunity for herself in AEW than in WWE. Like, the AEW division may see, like, she may see more upward mobility, and also she knows that going to WWE, she would not be able to stay in her home promotion, but working for AEW, she can. So I think that is one of the main reasons why she would not go to WWE. But one note that I want to put out there is that apparently, according to Mandy Rose's agent, Mandy Rose has made $500,000 in the last week since her release from WWE. Now, her agent said this to TMZ, according to Wrestling News. And, I mean, I don't know if that is something that you would expect, or something that would be anticipated, or maybe the agent would over push it. You know what I mean? Like, over overexpose it, or like exasperate it. That's the word. Exasperate it. That maybe that she would exasperate it, but or that her agent rather would exasperate it, or even that Mandy Rose would exasperate it. But I don't understand why they would. And with the amount of articles on this subject matter, it does seem like it is legitimate. It does seem like that it is somewhat legitimate, because I feel like the magnitude of articles, especially written in the New York Post, that according to Mandy Rose's agent, there's every possibility that Mandy Rose could become a millionaire by Christmas, with the fact that she's made $500,000 in a week since her release from WWE, just from her subscription service on Fan Time. So I'm just gonna put this out there that, again, props to Mandy Rose for deciding to become a self-made millionaire, and I'm happy for her. She's happy because there's a lot less stress on her body now, not having to take bumps than it was with WWE. So props to her, and I wish her nothing but the best. So, I mean, $500,000 in a week is freaking insane. But these have been my thoughts on wrestling, and I want to hear yours. Let me know down in the comment section below. But once again, I just want to wish each and every one of you a very happy and safe holiday this holiday weekend. And I look forward to wrapping up 2022 on a high note as we head into a fresh set of 12 months in 2 weeks, when we turn the calendar over from 2022 to 2023. With that being said, though, I will see you in the next one. Later for now.